Co-Mayor Alexa,
What Mayor Aaron?
who do you think would win in a hair versus hair match? Bianca Belair or Elsa from Frozen?
That would be quite the battle. But if we are talking a wrestling match, I would say Bianca Belair. Who do you think would win?
Yeah. Definitely Bianca. You know, hometown hero, rah rah, go Bianca.
It looked to me like you were gonna say Elsa.
Not necessarily. See, I forgot the context, and that's what's key here. Because in a wrestling match, one-on-one, oh yeah, Bianca Belair by far. But if we're talking a blood-for-blood street fight, I don't know. Elsa is kind of Disney's version of Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat.
If you were a Mortal Kombat character, you would be called Scrub-Zero.
Scrub-Zero. Okay, I get it. Anyway, let's just dive into this review of what looks to be the laziest, simplest, most inaccurate-est Mattel Women's Basic figure we've seen released in a while.
Yes, just please stop talking.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go get, okay, okay. Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillVille. Women's wrestling lives here. Now I'm going to start today's video off different and start it off with a giveaway. So as you can see, I have two Wrestlemania Basic Bianca Belairs beside me. I only need one. So I want to give back to y'all, give back to the community, to all you fans out there that have been so supportive of LumberJillVille. And all you have to do for a chance to win this Wrestlemania Basic Bianca Belair MOC is subscribe to LumberJillVille Wrestling Figures, hit the subscribe button, and comment your favorite women's wrestling figure of the year. Now that's going to be real important because next month we have the Jillies Award Show and I'm going to have y'all vote for the best figure of the year. And yeah, I'm really excited for that. So I'll be posting a poll next month and doing a video highlighting all the figures released on the year and take those votes. But I'm going to start tallying them now. So make sure to comment below your favorite women's wrestling figure of the year. Also subscribe and you'll be entered to win this WrestleMania Basic Bianca Belair. Now it's going to be a very short contest, a short window. So make sure to do that ASAP and the winner will be announced next week. So with that being said, anyone that knows anything about me and LumberJillVille knows that I admire Bianca Belair. She's a hometown hero for me, and God, she's amazing. I can't say enough good about her. How amazing this figure is, I don't really know. I have my thoughts and opinions based off of images alone, but we are going to take a closer look at this figure, and we'll see how it is. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at this figure, starting with the MOC. Alright, so let's start off by taking a closer look at this very unique packaging. Now, the reason it's so unique is obviously because it's part of the WrestleMania Basic Series. Technically, this is the WrestleMania 38 Basic Series, and this attire depicts a previous WrestleMania appearance by Bianca, which we'll cover next. But I just wanted to show y'all the box and the package. So we have an image of Bianca, looking stunning as always, on the side of the box with her name. We have that WrestleMania logo at the top. And on the back, we have an image of her, and we have, once again, this kind of video game-esque setup where she is highlighted as a powerhouse. That's always kind of cool. It also has her signature moves at the top there, and then the rest of the series. Now, not much really else to say, like usual with the basics, so let's open it up and see how easy it is to open. Okay, that was easy. That was easy. Alright, let's review her. WrestleMania 38 Basic Series Bianca Belair. This attire is from WrestleMania 34 when the women of NXT, including Bianca, basically invaded the Women's Battle Royal on the kickoff show, which took place on April 8, 2018 in New Orleans. Naomi would eventually come out victorious in the Battle Royal that night. Alright, so starting off with my first impressions of this figure, I'm going to be completely honest. I think this figure is so much better in person. Now we are going to do a breakdown and take a closer look piece by piece and show that this is not a perfect figure. And when I first saw the final product images of this figure, I noticed a lot wrong with it, including some missing deco that we'll cover when we look at the attire. And I was really disappointed, but there's some things that I thought I saw in the final images, such as the body shape. I thought it was the same body mold that they used on the Basic 125 Ember Moon, and it's actually not. It's actually a little smaller, and it actually looks a lot better in person, and that's just my opinion, but looking at it, I'm actually okay with this Basic, but let's take a closer look and really check it out up close, starting with the face. Alright, so in my opinion, I think this is the best job that Mattel has done as far as capturing Bianca's overall likeness and look. Now, to the naked eye, this looks like the same exact skin that they used in her Elite Series 81. But if you take a look to the left here, you'll see a couple key differences that I think are improvements on this WrestleMania Basic. The first thing is the skin tone. I feel like the skin tone in this WrestleMania Basic is a lot more accurate. And also, that hairline that they used on the Elite Series 81, it went back way too far. I didn't notice it at first, but after comparing it to this one, yeah, that Elite 81 looks silly with how far back that hairline goes. So they brought that forward a little bit on this Basic. And yeah, between that and the skin tone, I think this actually is a better likeness, overall likeness to Bianca. Now, I am going to do a full-out comparison between this WrestleMania Basic and that Elite Series 81 and also the previous Basic that she had released. But for now, we'll stick to this figure scan and head. So the one thing I am going to say is this head sculpt is kind of small. Now, it's the same way on that Elite. It seems like it's a little undersized. It's not too crazy, but just seems a little small. Now, I really like her smile. That's definitely something that warms everybody's heart. Bianca freaking has one of the most genuine smiles. It's great. I'm glad they captured that. And then the EST that's printed on her braid here looks great. The silver application to her little ponytail holder looks good. And then on the back of the head, we have that Bianca Belair EST. It is raised up and elevated, but it's not painted silver like in her Elite 81. And the braid is pretty long and pretty identical to that Elite 81. Now, I am going to say, and you'll notice this when I do a comparison between her previous Basic, this braid is rather thin. And just like her Elite 81 braid, I feel like it's too thin. I think they got the thickness right on her Basic, actually. But we'll get to that later. So yeah, overall, I think this scan is good. And I think the improvements on the hairline and the skin tone really makes a big difference. And yeah, I think this is the best likeness we've gotten of Bianca so far. So that being said, let's move on down to the attire. Alright, so moving on down to her attire. In the intro, I made a comment about this being the laziest women's Basic we've seen in a while. And honestly, it comes from the attire because it is missing some deco that should have been added. And I can't fathom why it wasn't. And we'll talk about that after we cover the good, because there is some good in this attire. Now, it is important to note that this is a women's Basic figure, which means there's not a whole lot of molding involved in the attire, but with Bianca, because she wears tight-fitting attire, it actually works. And I think they did a tremendous job on this top. Now, the silver really stands out, and the lips and the lines are actually painted on very intricately. Now, there's only a couple spots where it doesn't really line up, but honestly, a lot of times when they try to do little paint details on these women's Basics, it looks sloppy, but they did a great job with the paint application on the top, and I think it looks awesome. Now, continue with that top. We can see that the black goes around her neck, comes around the back, and kind of forms those straps that were signature to that night. It's also important to note that she has a tattoo on her shoulder, on her back, and she has her signature red lips all the way down. Looks awesome. These little silver armbands look really cool too. So I have no issues with the top. I think it works really well for Bianca, and they did an excellent job. Now, here's where I have an issue. It's with the bottom half of Bianca now. Not only does it look silly because it's once again those Kermit the Frog super skinny legs, but it's missing the lines, the stripes on the front of the pants. Now, it is important to note that on that night, if you go back and watch it, the lines didn't go in the back. And this is accurate where it says EST and has lips on each side. That is accurate to that night. There were no lines in the back. However, there were lines on the front, and I felt like that's a big part of this attire, and they just didn't do it. And I think that's really lazy. So that really bothers me. And on top of that, the boots are inaccurate. I mean, they had silver involved in the design, and that seems like something so small they could have added, and they didn't. So that bothers me. So yeah, I think they did a tremendous job on the upper body as far as her attire goes, but it's like night and day when you compare it to the bottom half, because here it's missing that key deco that really would make this attire stand out and make this basic great, in my opinion. So it's also important to note, I kind of mentioned it, as far as the body mold goes, it actually works pretty well. When I first saw images, I thought, okay, why are they using that body mold on her? She's very fit, she's very muscular, and she's strong, and I thought they used a really wide waist, and I'm happy to say that I actually think this waist works just fine. You know, I think that head might be a little small as far as scaling goes, and that's why it looks a little bigger than it should. But I do feel like the waist works good. I think my only real complaint with the body mold, and it's just kind of how things are, is it kind of gives the appearance that she doesn't have a neck when you're looking at certain angles. You know, if you angle her a certain way, it's fine. Like, that looks great. But then if she's leaning forward a little bit, there goes the neck. It's gone. So I think the upper body's fine. And once again, with the lower body, these Kermit the Frog legs, they're way too skinny. Bianca is such a strong, powerful woman, and they continue to use these long, skinny legs on basics such as Rhea Ripley and this Bianca, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why they don't put a new mold out there that's a little more muscular. So yeah, this figure is about half and half as far as great and bad. Alright, so now let's do a fun little comparison of all her figures released so far. Now, it is important to note that she is getting an Elite Series 91, and I believe Bill McKenna on his Instagram showed the final product, and it looks freaking amazing, and I think it is going to be the best figure of Bianca, but we're just looking at these to figure out the best Bianca until that comes out, basically. So, before I take a deep dive in comparing these three figures, I wanted to show that, yes, Elite Series 81 does come with a boatload of accessories, including sunglasses, a jacket, and extra hands. But we are just going to talk about the figures themselves and try to figure out what's the best one so far. So, on the left, we have the first time in the line Bianca, which is Basic 107. Now, this is one of the first reviews on my channel, needless to say. And I have to say, I am disappointed because the scan on this one was printed on off and it looked really goofy. So I never really got a corrected scan of this Basic 107, but I definitely plan on it. And what really was disappointing too is this attire looks so super sloppy. I mean, it's really apparent when you paint over that generic top with a solid color like black. But even the little circles that go around look really crappy. It looks like it was applied with like one layer. And yeah, it looks like a custom to me. So the only good thing I really liked about this first basic of hers was how thick her braid was. I think that's the best braid that she's got. But unfortunately, that attire and paint application looks bad. Now, I did compare the faces between the Elite Series 81 and then this most recent basic. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, it's a little bit of an improvement as far as the hairline goes and the skin tone. But I have to say, I'm having trouble here because when I'm comparing these two faces, I think it's supposed to be the same scan, but it's hard to tell with that TrueFX face scan technology if it's a different scan. I don't know. But either way, I do actually like this basic a little more as far as the scan goes. Now, as far as the best Bianca figure, I mean, let's be honest here. This Elite's a gorgeous figure. It stands out, especially with the accessories of the sunglasses, that jacket. I mean, it's a beautiful, gorgeous figure. However, I do feel, and even though scale has kind of been thrown out the window by Mattel, I like them to be somewhat in scale with each other when I have them on display. And quite frankly, they made Bianca really too small. You know, she's way too small and doesn't give you that strong, powerful vibe that she has. So I actually think this most recent basic does the best job of giving that powerful, strong Bianca Belair vibe. So I would honestly say if you're looking for a Bianca in your collection right now, I would actually say go for this WrestleMania basic. You can get it real cheap off of Ringside right now, like $15. And I think it's a good placeholder until that Elite Series 91 because in my opinion, if that Elite Series 91 has the improvements in the skin tone, the hairline, that's going to be her best figure by far. I can't wait to get my hands on that. So, yeah, I just wanted to give you an up-close look of all her figure releases so far, and she really hasn't had any terrible ones, but yeah, I would almost advise this WrestleMania Basic to get. Now, I usually don't do articulation with the Basic figure reviews, but you know what? Let's do it here. So the head actually has pretty good movement left and right and up and down. The arm is kind of on a ball type joint, can go in all different directions. The elbow can just flex to about 90 degrees and extend out. The wrist can't flex and extend. It can just kind of circle on a pivot. Her waist can pivot there. The hip actually has really good movement in all different directions, and the knee is just a single joint, and you really have to force it back to bend it. As you can see, I really don't want to break it. And then she has an upper boot swivel. So the main thing I wanted to show you with this design, I found especially with these real long, thin legs, is, oh my goodness, it is hard to get them balanced to where they stand up. I mean, literally, like I still have her leaning forward, and yeah, she really doesn't stand. So you kind of have to like hunch them over a little bit, you know, and I think that's kind of dumb, or you have to get a display stand. So that's definitely the downside, but luckily I do have a display stand. So yeah, that's how I suggest displaying her. And here's one last look at WrestleMania 38 Basic Series, Bianca Belair. Alright, so overall, I give the WrestleMania 38 Basic Series Bianca Belair a score of a 6 out of 10. Now, it is important to note, to anyone new to this channel, that I do have a different scale between my basics and my elites. And to me, a 6 out of 10 on the women's basic scale, I think that's fair because I do think this is a step above average as far as the women's wrestling basics go. Because in my opinion, the good on this figure is really good. But the bad things about this figure are kind of inexcusable and really bad. It's kind of mind-boggling to me. And starting with the bad, you know, we're going to once again talk about the missing deco on those tights. I mean, why are there no lines on the front? Why do you include the stripes on the top, but the stripes on the bottom are gone? I mean, I think that's inexcusable, super lazy. I know it cost extra, but come on, how much extra could it have cost to make this attire accurate? So that's frustrating, okay? I also think the legs, it's kind of getting absurd now that we're getting all these new body molds for all these male superstars, but we're stuck with these Kermit the Frog legs. You know, we've seen time and time again with the taller women superstars, and they're just way too small, way too thin. It looks silly. It looks silly on Charlotte, looks silly on Rhea Ripley, and the legs look silly on Bianca. You know what I'm saying? And just think, if she had those vertical lines on the legs, they'd look even thinner because, you know, stuff, you know. But anyway, so yeah, that's what really takes this figure down, because in my opinion, the good on this figure really do stand out. And I love the improvements that they made on little things like her hairline, bringing the hair forward a little bit. Also, I think the skin tone's great. And this attire, as far as the upper body goes, they did a phenomenal job with the paint application. It looks real clean, really stands out, and I think it's an excellent job. I also like the tattoo detail and even the lips on her back. So, like I mentioned before, I think this is the best placeholder as far as Bianca Belair figures go until that Elite 91 comes out. And I do say placeholder because that Elite 91, I have full expectations that that is going to be the best Bianca Belair figure to date when it releases here next month. So until then, if you really need a Bianca and you don't have one, I do suggest getting this one as a placeholder, because on the shelf with the other women elites and even the other women's basics, it does look like a strong, powerful Bianca figure, whereas that Elite 81 looks a little small, but we're getting off track, okay? I am going to say, yeah, I highly suggest you just go and pre-order Elite 91 from Ringside, honestly. But, like I said, if you really need a placeholder or if you're looking for a cheaper option, I think this does a fine job. Now, before we go, I just want to remind y'all that I am giving away one of these WrestleMania 38 Basic Bianca Belairs, and all you have to do is hit the subscribe button below to LumberJillVille Wrestling Figures, turn on the notifications, and leave a comment for your favorite women's wrestling figure of the year. Not only am I interested to see that, but I'm going to use that data. It's going to go toward the voting for the Jillies Award Show next month. So I'm excited for that. I'm getting prepared a little early, and y'all's comments below letting me know your favorite women's wrestling figure for this past year will actually help me get a jump start on the voting process. So I'm excited for that. Now, with that being said, thank you for stopping by LumberJillVille. Women's wrestling lives here. For our first look at all future women's wrestling figures, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and join the community. Head on over to ProWrestlingT/LJV to check out the merch, and also check out the Treasure and Eyes podcast every Wednesday titled LumberJillCast wherever you're listening to them. Have a good night, y'all.